I'm an adrenaline junkie. I suppose that's a good way to start this. My thoughts are a bit jumbled, so you have to bear with me. Chasing the high is how I spent all of my time. I'd skip out on bills if it meant I could afford going to one of those few escape rooms in the country I hadn't been to yet. That was my biggest hobby for a time. Skydiving and other daredevil activities had stopped working a long time ago. They were always the same thing. If you've done it once, you've done it a million times. Escape rooms, though, they had new puzzles to figure out each time. I guess it was only a matter of time before I'd grow out of those as well. At the age of 23, I discovered urban exploration. In my mind, this was basically the same thing as escape rooms, except there aren't any actors. The dangers of being caught and fined only fueled the fire in me more. I made it my mission to find and document spirits. Of course, this was better in my head than it did in execution. Try I might, but I couldn't find anything worth sharing with the world. Name almost any haunted place in the United States. I've been there, found nothing, and went home with doubts. Sure, I had some stories. One time I fell into an open elevator shaft and caught a rusty wire to save myself. It sounds cooler on paper, I promise. Another time I heard footsteps and voices on the floor above me in an abandoned asylum. I ran up and was met with another group. Disappointment isn't a strong enough word. Until recently, the scariest encounter I had ever had was stumbling upon a deranged homeless man who chased me out of an old-fashioned farmhouse with a knife. That one revived my interest for a time, at least until I realized the odds of something like that happening again were slim to none. If you couldn't already tell, I had a bit of a problem. Some would call me insane. For this reason, I had no friends, and my family avoided me like the plague. That was okay. I understood. My lifestyle was a lot to keep up with, so I stayed busy either way. Well, I guess I did have one friend, even though I had never met him in person. We got to know each other through an urban exploration forum. If you thought I was obsessed, this guy brought it to a whole nother level. His name was Derek. After a few interactions, we gave each other our real-life phone numbers and kept each other updated on our findings. This guy had the lowdown on everything. He knew places Google didn't know about. I lost countless jobs due to my lifestyle. It was tough finding an employer who wouldn't get mad at me for leaving days at a time with no warning. How I made it work for as long as I did is just as much of a mystery as it probably is to you. Call it good luck in the getting hired department, or something. If I lost a job, I could find another one pretty quick. Of course, this meant I never worked anywhere for a long time. But hey, if I ever caught something worthwhile on camera, I could set myself up for a while. As you can assume, this started seeming more and more like a fairy tale day by day. My belief in the paranormal had dwindled to near absolute zero. I went a while wondering what was next for me. Doubt that I would find the next high was creeping more and more into my subconscious every day. I was now 25. I had spent 2 years wasting my life and had nothing to show for it, just a sketchy job history and an empty bank account. It's not like I could do much with all the footage either. What was I going to do? Incriminate myself by publishing videos of me breaking into almost every place of interest in the United States? Surprisingly, I began to accept my fate. It was finally time to nut up and fix my life. For weeks, I had tried reconnecting with my family and got back to speaking terms with most of them. My old friends gave me the silent treatment, but honestly, I don't blame them. Life was going okay for a time. That was until I got a text from Derek. It read, "Hey Tom, I got intel on an abandoned asylum in Montana. I know those are your favorite. Going to check it out in a week. Supposed to be the real deal. Many missing person cases in the area. I'll send you coordinates, so if you don't hear from me, you know where to look. You know me though, I always carry." Attached was the image with coordinates. I'd be lying if I said his text didn't pique my interest, especially considering I lived in northern Idaho and this place wasn't that far away. I traveled all across the country before. This would be nothing. But my life was starting to move forward. I couldn't let this stop that. Plus, I knew that Derek would update me if he found anything. Even if there wasn't, he'd text me something like, "It was a bust," or something along those lines. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm ashamed to say that I spent every day for the last week waiting for an update. It was getting to me, so I text Derek. "Hey Derek, find anything in Montana?" It wasn't like him to not update me right away. As I said, he's really into this stuff, and it was like he couldn't wait to tell me everything once he returned home. I wouldn't have been surprised if I got a response within a few minutes. Fast forward another 2 weeks, and no response ever came. This left me in a moral dilemma. What if something happened to Derek? What if he needed my help? The adrenaline-fueled habits returned to my mind, and I'm sure you can guess what happened next. This story wouldn't exist if I didn't do exactly what you expect. I had no info on the asylum other than the location, but that would have to do. I began my drive around noon. I'll spare you the nonsense of my driving excursion, considering I was held up a number of times by different annoyances. I arrived at 10 p.m. It was completely dark, just the way I like it. Arriving, it was a one-way in, one-way out road that was roughly 5 miles, if I had to guess. The place was eerie, to say the least. This place was decrepit. The windows were still intact, surprisingly, and it was 6 stories. This asylum was massive. Pulling into the giant gravel parking lot, there were no other cars in sight. Okay, so maybe nothing happened to Derek. His car would still be here if he was, right? There's always an off chance that he could hide his car, but considering the desolation of the surroundings, there would be no point. I grabbed my camera and began to walk. Reaching the steps, I felt a chill. How I missed that feeling. It's always worth checking if the front door is accessible. A lock can be told whether or not the front doors are locked or unlocked. If they were unlocked, it could be a hotspot for locals. If not, it could be moderately patrolled. The giant double door swung wide open without a budge. I was instantly hit with the smell of rot. It wasn't just normal rot. Trust me. Over the past couple years, I've smelled it all. This was putrid, like iron mixed with literal shit. Naturally, it was dark, but my military-grade flashlight lit the place up like it was daylight. My handheld Canon also had night vision, so seeing was no issue. In the main room, there was a front desk and 3 hallways, one leading straight and one to either side of me. Odd. Usually, there would be stairs here. But judging by the outside of this building, it could be older than any other that I had explored yet. I couldn't wait to see what I would find. Figuring that the doors were placed in the dead center, I decided to flip a coin. Heads, I'd go right. Tails, I'd go left. I fished a quarter out of my pocket and flipped it. Missing the catch, the quarter bounced off the ground. The sound echoed down all 3 hallways. It seemed to never end. Once the sound reached what seemed to be forever away, the sound started to echo back towards me. I'm no expert, but this didn't seem right. I was then smacked square in the forehead by something. It stung like hell. I heard the quarter hit the ground again. What the hell? Did that quarter just come flying down the hallway and hit me? No way it could bounce with that velocity that I was hit with. Not that the former made sense either. Anybody with a logical brain would have left right then and there. But I was intrigued, not scared. Dreams of catching something and becoming famous began flooding my mind in the same way it used to. I shined a flashlight down on my feet to find the quarter. Yep, this place must be the real deal. The quarter was sitting on its side. I don't know the odds of that happening. I had never seen it before. I thought for a second, if it was to hit my forehead while facing forward, and going forward was never an option, something really wanted me to go away. If I was to catch this something on film, that would be the way to go. So forward I went. I walked about 100 yards when I came across the stairs leading up. The building was really bigger on the inside because there was still a lot of hallway to go. I ascended the stairs and reached the second floor. Looking back, I don't know how I didn't find it odd that the building was 6 stories, but the stairs only went up 1 floor. I was met with another hallway. Doors to individual rooms were littered both ways. Wheelchairs and other expected debris were littered everywhere. I decided to head right, the same direction I was heading on the first floor. I was curious how long this hallway really went. I pivoted to the right, and this is where things got real. 10 feet in front of me was a girl in a gown, long black hair covering her face. Holy shit, I caught something. I checked the camera, and she showed up clear as day. "Ma'am, do you need help?" I asked. I was ecstatic. This was something no one has ever captured before. The clearest footage possible. This was bound to go viral. I took a couple steps forward towards her. "Leave," she whispered. I couldn't think of much to say, but I managed a quick, "Why?" "Leave while you still have the chance. You don't have much time," she said. "What do you mean?" I asked. This was unreal. Not only did I capture her spirit on film, but I was having a conversation with it. Derek wasn't kidding, I mumbled under my breath. Derek didn't listen either, she instantly whispered. Wait, what does she mean? Derek didn't listen? This was everything I hoped for, but if the spirits here are this bold, why did Derek never say anything? I bet he's at home thinking about how to publish his own footage right now. That asshole. He was going to become famous first. I can't believe he didn't tell me about this. Money does strange things to people. In retrospect, the magnitude of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm speaking to a spirit, face to face, and she has told me to leave. Here I am, filming like an idiot. Maybe I should go. I checked the camera again to make sure I was still capturing this. I was. I have what I need. Maybe I should just go. I took a step back, and the woman let out a scream and ran into the room closest to her. Okay, yeah, I'm leaving. This is too much even for me. I turned around, and before I could even react, I was cold clocked across the head. I hit the ground, and the camera and flashlight flew off my head. I didn't try to retrieve them. I got back on my feet and took a few steps back. Standing in front of me was a man dressed as a surgeon. He was muscular. Too muscular. This guy made Arnold look small. The look in his eyes was crazed, to say the least. In his hand was a giant knife. I turned around and continued down the hallway as fast as I could. I could hear him running, trailing behind me, but he seemed to be slower than me. I ran for what seemed like ages, till I came to a cafeteria. It is what you would imagine it to be, large and open. I'd be trapped if I stayed, but I couldn't turn around now. The surgeon was still stomping his way down the hallway. The kitchen was my only option. I hopped through the serving window, and was impressed by the size of the kitchen. I chose to hide inside one of the ovens. There were 5 ovens in total, and everything else was too wide open to risk. I climbed into the last one and held my breath the best I could. The surgeon entered maybe 30 seconds later. He was searching everything, pulling counters off the walls with brute strength and flipping them over. He got to the ovens and searched the first, then the second, third, fourth. He placed his hands on the door for mine, and that's when I heard a noise in the cafeteria. He must have heard it too because he let out a guttural scream and released the oven to find the source. I just might be saved. I waited about 5 minutes before I finally climbed out. I don't know what the sound that spared my life in that moment was, but I wasn't going to stand around to question it. I creeped back to the haunting hallway and walked as lightly as I could to find the stairs. I was going to get out of here, now. A long while in, I was met once again by this woman. "You need to hurry. she told me. How much further do I have? I questioned. You're getting close to the stairs. Stay quiet, and once you reach the first floor, run. Each floor has an evil entity haunting it. This floor is the safest. The entity on the first floor is not as dumb as this one. Stay safe. There's hundreds of us trapped here. Now go. I wanted to ask her why she was helping me, but she was gone once again. I eventually saw something shining in the distance. It was my flashlight. I could start running, grab my flashlight, grab my camera that had to be near, and get out of here. I began my jog, but just as I did, I heard that scream again. The silhouette of the surgeon was on the other side of the flashlight. He was closer to it than I. But remembering how slow he was, I might be able to outrun him. I knew what was behind me, and I couldn't risk getting caught again with nowhere to hide. I sprinted faster than I ever have in my life. His pace quickened as well. For a time, it looked like I might beat him, but once I got closer, I realized the flashlight must have flown pretty far. He was gonna beat me. I'm screwed. I'd have to risk juking him. There was no other option. I'd never felt this kind of adrenaline before. We met at the stairs at the same time, and I went to dive down the steps, but it was useless. He caught me and slammed me to the ground. He was too powerful. He slammed a knife onto my chest, and I felt a cold liquid cover my torso. "Tom!" someone yelled. Next thing I knew, someone tackled the surgeon off of me. I scrambled to my feet and flew down the stairs, not questioning why they knew my name. I reached the first floor and began another mad dash to escape this hell. The floor was littered with blood. It was everywhere. I could hear hundreds of voices telling me to run. It was overbearing, but I did just that. I reached the door, went through them like they weren't even there, and flew down the steps. Then, I hit an invisible wall. Looking out into the parking lot, there were cars everywhere, mine included. I suppose I got everything I hoped for. It wasn't worth it though, because in the end, it cost me my life.